Hi, my name is Faisa Omer, and I'm a studio photographer currently based in Edmonton. I also work in Ottawa, Ontario, where I was born and raised. I am the child of Somali refugees. I'm also the oldest of seven kids. I work as a mental health counselor um, as my day job, and I use photography as self care. I'm interested in fashion, as well as social photo voice projects as well. While I was doing my undergrad at Carleton University in neuroscience, I decided to pursue my hobby, which was photography. So I would do a couple of weddings and events just to have some pocket money while in university. I realized during my last year of my master's, when I was very burnt out, that I actually wanted to pursue photography full time. So I ended up going to the photography program at Algonquin College. That's where I learned studio photography and the bulk of the skills that I use today. I was there for about 6 months until my family found me a job, and that's why I'm in Edmonton, Alberta now. Some of the influences that I have, definitely my mom. So my mom always had more than one uh, business going on as a kid to support our large family. I'm the oldest of seven. So my mom would have all these small businesses, and she was just always hustling, just so we could have another pair of shoes or another jacket or whatnot. Um, and that kind of stuck by me. So when I was in university, I knew I could kind of generate my own wealth if I needed to. I think when I was in photography school, we were taught all about the greats, for example, Ansel Adams. My photography is very different from his, but he's someone who has like a very beautiful photographs. And I think currently there's a lot of fashion photographers that I follow and I gather inspiration from. In terms of portraits, I have to give a shout out to Yassine Osman from Toronto, who's also a Somali photographer. So I remember going to one of these Somali events, maybe, I think in 2016, maybe 5 years ago, and then hearing him talk about having going to school for one thing and then pursuing photography as well. And I remember thinking, hey, even though I'm in my master's right now for neuroscience, I can also pursue what I do like. I can follow my own passions. And he's like a young Somali photographer who's achieved success. So I guess, and he does really beautiful portraits. My portraits are more on there's a lot of use of color, but him, you feel like you're staring into the soul of the subject. So he's obviously one of the people that influenced me. I divide my art into two pieces. There's the fashion aspect of it, and then there's also social photo voice projects. So when it comes to the fashion, I like to profile people who are close to me, so either my friends or my family, because there's that connection while I'm taking the photos. It's usually a very fun experience. There's not a lot of stress. And I love to show beauty when it comes to women wearing the hijab. So I would do a lot of portraits incorporating Muslim women. And when it comes to the social photo voice projects, there's usually a wraparound theme, and I use my photography to kind of amplify voices. Uh, some of the projects include working with Islamophobia, COVID, as well as Black Lives Matter. So one of the projects that I've done is called the Reclaiming Ritchie Project, right after the murder of George Floyd. in May of 2020, I called my family together in Ottawa, and I asked all my siblings, like, how are you doing? As a mental health counselor, I thought it'd be important to kind of check in on everyone. Most of my family had the same reaction, except for my younger brother, who was 20, 21 at the time. And he was saying, he was very standoffish. He was saying, like, I don't know why you guys think this is brand new. Why is everyone acting like this doesn't happen? This is my life as a Black man. And then he started to just kind of unload and talk about all of these experiences that he had, just in the city, in high school, in everyday life. So one of the stories that he brought up was, handing in an assignment, getting 100% on it, and then the teacher subsequently just saying, "Oh, yeah, this is too good for you to write," right? And then that being escalated to the principal, and the principal not really doing anything about it as well. So when I heard these experiences, I'm like, "What about your friends?" The idea kind of just came as we were talking, and I'm like, "Hey, why don't I have my studio equipment set up in the basement for no apparent reason? Let's do this." So we bought a bed sheet from like Walmart, and then that was the backdrop. I used one light just to create this moody feel to the photos, and then just called his friends from the neighborhood. And what makes this a lot more personal is that a lot of the subjects are kids that I've just seen grow up while I was a teenager. So, tutoring, babysitting. Some of them have been babysitting. So it's just that's what made it a lot easier for them to open up and to talk about and become very vulnerable on the camera. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of share their stories on Instagram. That's where I put all my work. I didn't really consider myself an artist before this. And then I got approached by a staff reporter from the CBC, Christine Mackey. And she just like DM'd me and said, "Hey, do you want to do an interview?" I'm like, "Sure." Right. Like, that's cool that you want to know, but it's okay. So I did like a short interview, and then a month later, I wake up to like my phone blowing up, getting hundreds of messages from people all over the city of Ottawa. Did like two TV interviews like that day, radio interviews. It just kind of got bigger. Eventually, I saw myself sitting in a focus group for the Ottawa Art Gallery. And then the last like 5 minutes of when everyone was kind of done talking, I was like, "Hey, what do I have to do to get my art in your space?" And then they were, it was a little awkward. They're like, "You need grants. It doesn't work like that. We don't just," and I'm like, "Okay." I shot my shot. And then about a month later, I got an email from one of the curators who had watched the entire video. And she said, "Hey, I actually do want to showcase your art." What made these photos stand out a little bit more and made it a lot more impactful was that they were showcasing people, youth from our particular neighborhood. And this neighborhood is called Ritchie Street or Britannia Woods in Ottawa, Ontario. So this neighborhood is not really portrayed that well in the media. There's a lot of violence, so it's kind of the people who live in that neighborhood are kind of associated with that profile of being violent or not being in the best circumstances in life. So what these photos did is that they showed a different um, perspective to Black youth in particular that live in that area, especially when you kind of, put in perspective the different uh, obstacles that they go through life while being Black. For example, all of these racist experiences that they're going through, as a young man, as a young teenager, just going to class, just getting an assignment back, or going to a store, a retail store, and just handing in a resume, and then that happening to become an entire traumatic experience. So what it did, it shed light to the, the the unfair, I'd say it's unfair circumstances that Black youth, Black men in particular, go through on a day-to-day basis. one of the projects that I've already done kind of like a part one to that, and that is still continuing, is an Islamophobia project in Edmonton. So I had the pleasure of interviewing one of the women that were attacked in Edmonton. She was attacked in the LRT, and it was very sobering just to kind of hear how she felt about like how much that event had impacted her. There were a lot of bystanders in the vicinity. No one stayed behind. No one intervened. She asked a couple that was kind of watching, and she made eye contact with them while she was being attacked, and she was like, "Help me," and she was just ignored. So some of those feelings that she still carries with her, and this happened in like December, I think, of 2020, is that she feels rejected by society. She feels as though she doesn't belong anymore in the entire country. So she's just like, I need to find somewhere else to live. I need to move overseas. I've done everything right. There's a sense of frustration. I've done everything right. I went to school. I did university. And I was just, she's like, I was on the way to an exam when this happened, and what's the point? Like, so there's that sense of like, I'm not safe. I'm not accepted. So what I did is just kind of use her quotes and other quotes of Muslim women that live in Edmonton while taking photos of Muslim women that are not giving me my quotes, so the quotes don't exactly match up with, just to keep everyone anonymous that shared. That's also ongoing right now. We're working with the city of Edmonton to kind of do like a campaign or something. So that's still in the works, but I always put everything out on Instagram first.